What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today we're going to talk about The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, the new one, because this is real, and we've made this in 2025. We remade The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. It now stars Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Mika Monroe, Raul Castillo, and went straight to Hulu, which has the same fate that happened to the White Men Can't Jump remake. I don't know if you remember that one, but that was an icon. And it just a few years ago clearly set the world on fire and triggered a whole bunch of other random early 90s remakes like The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. So it has audio description. That's a good thing. But is it good? Let's talk about it. So Mary Elizabeth Winstead plays the I guess you could say normal character here, the mother, the one that is gonna hire the nanny, played by Mika Monroe, to come rock the cradle. She has a husband, which is Raul Castillo's part. When we meet her at the top of the film, she's a lawyer who's trying to help Monroe with her landlord and her apartment, and because her landlord's trying to raise the rent and kick her out or something. It's not really important. And she's pregnant at the time, and she already has a kid at home. So fast forward to a little while later, and she's given birth, and now that has a baby and a daughter who is honestly a bit much. But whatever. I mean, kids who have never heard the word no, just, you can tell. And so she happens to run into Mika Monroe again, and by happenstance, I think her name is Polly. And this, Polly's like, well, remember when we met last time, I said I did childcare and I did early childhood education, and was my thing. And so if you ever need a babysitter, even for just one night, let me know. So inevitably that ends up happening, because she's like, well, this girl has had a hard time. Pretty certain she lives in her car. So let's bring her into the house. Nothing bad will happen here, obviously. So they invite Polly into their house. And in case you haven't seen this movie before, I'm pretty certain there are like 100 versions of it that have been made since on Lifetime. All these different, I was even thinking about Poison Ivy, that whole franchise from back in the day. We've had this sort of thing where the nanny comes in and tries to steal the family. We've done that to death. I don't know why it needed to necessarily be called Hand That Rocks the Cradle again. I don't feel the need to revisit the 1992 version, because again, I feel like I've been revisiting this film my entire life through all of the very like-minded movies that we've had over the years, like the one where Megan Fox is the android who's trying to steal the family. We've seen that recently too. This concept doesn't necessarily get better until somebody actually finds a way to do that, until you have talent behind the camera and writing a screenplay that actually subverts expectations. And we got close, because they started to play around with things a little bit here. Winstead has some sort of mental health issue that she takes medication for, which is kind of what sends her over the edge and makes her sort of an unreliable first person account to everyone else of anything that Mika does, because, well, she also might be Looney Tunes. So they haven't quite figured that out. They're like, oh, remember that time that you were tearing apart the kitchen for no reason whatsoever? We're back to that, aren't we? So they're stupid rich because they have like a guest house, and that's where Mika ends up living. She goes from like babysitter slash nanny to live-in nanny, and then finally when she gets to that point, that's when she's entrenched, so the gloves fully come off. But you see like little paper cuts along the way of hints the audience sees of well, this isn't going to go well. They do introduce the fact that Polly has dabbled in dating women, so they could have gone the other way with this, and instead of going the typical route where it's pushing the wife out of the family, they could have pushed the dad out of the family. And no, that's not what they do here either. It just follows the same trope that we've seen 1,000 times. I don't know why we made this. I don't know why this is like, why this has a budget. I don't know why this isn't just a Lifetime movie. I don't know why this registered at all. They pre-screened this, by the way. I was offered the opportunity. It's just I knew I wouldn't have gotten the audio description track. I was like, I'll get it on Hulu. But now that I look back on it, I was like, why on earth would you advance screen this for critics? Like, what on... There are some movies where I go, okay, so we're not getting a screening of that, or I'm not getting an advanced copy of that. Damn, that sucks. I kind of really wanted to see that. Or, oh man, that looked good. Or just because of like locational reasons, the amount of live screenings, you would think they make up for it by sending digital screeners. But the list of movies that I haven't even been invited to screen are just massive. But yet I got Hand That Rocks the Cradle for Hulu. Why? Like, why this movie? I can't... Why would anyone want to see this movie in advance? Like, why would you want that word of mouth out? There can't be. I haven't read another review yet because I saw this the day that it came out. I don't know, man. Literally when I checked the IMDb page, it had no score yet. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with the reviews, but I feel pretty confident that everybody's going to be in the rotten zone on this one. The one positive that I will say about the film is the acting is good, which is shocking because the film is not. It's like they're buried by poor dialogue and sort of this derivative plot that really doesn't do anything except add like a hint of LGBTQism into it, and then that's just gonna make people go on the internet and be like, whoa, God, made it woke. That's what they do now. So I don't really see a whole lot of changes that we've made that have improved this concept or plot. It has some really bad, like, things that it telegraphs early on. I don't, like, want to spoil the ending of the movie, but there's this, like, really, like, awkward out of nowhere where they even kind of sit in the moment, like, to think about it. They, like, don't immediately... Like, the edit is bad. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they want you to sit there and think about it and go, huh... Okay, we're moving on to the next thing. But they have cars that drive way too fast through their neighborhood, and she, like, a car whizzes past her, Winstead's character, at one time, and she says something about, she's like, oh, too fast, we should have a stop sign here, or we should, and her husband makes some remark about, like, trying to get people to stop in LA, like, it's just how people drive. So, and then they do that again. They, like, get you, like, at least one more, like, ridiculously fast speeding car that whizzes past somebody again, and you're like, these aren't coincidences. Let's harken back to a time when this was effective. I'm gonna call on Final Destination from 25 years ago. That was effective. That was out of nowhere. They hadn't telegraphed it. No, not really anyway. They hadn't telegraphed what that would be. And they've tried to recreate that moment over and over and over and over again, I think. And I think what they use it for would have been far more effective had they not telegraphed it. But I kept expecting it the whole movie. I was like, okay, when are we going to use this? When are we going to use this? When is this poorly written plot device going to come into play? So yeah, it's kind of an incompetent movie. It's just well acted. Like, I'm not going to fault any of the actors or actresses. The only times that you're like, well, that wasn't good, I would ask you, were the actors not good? Or was the dialogue not good? Were they just given something that was obnoxious or silly to say? Because two things can be true. You can be a good actor, and also the thing that you have to say is almost impossible to say in any sort of like normal, or the actions that you're given. You know, if you're not really given like reason, rhyme or reason behind something, you just sort of have to do something out of nowhere. These actors don't have the ability to change the script and to rewrite it. They didn't choose people. While I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead, I think she's really underrated as an actress, and I think Mika Monroe is really up and coming. I've seen Raul Castillo. I liked him in the Inspector. What was that movie? The gay army movie. He was in that. Was it Inspector or Inspection? I don't know. I wasn't planning on saying that, but they've been in other things that I've liked, but they're not the kind of people who are high enough up the food chain to where they exert influence. None of these people exert influence. They are hired because they're recognizable faces and they can sort of anchor a Hulu movie. But yeah, I don't know who this director is, but for example, like if we had gotten Julia Roberts in here and Julia Roberts was handed the script, she would have thrown it in somebody's face and been like, no. And then just been like, I'm just going to improv. You know? I mean, some people have the ability to just go, no, well, that's not the line that's written. Well, I don't give a shit. That line sucks. I'm just going to do what I want to do. You know, how much are you being paid? Because I'm being paid $20 million to be here. So no, these actors, they're forced to be in scenes that suck with dialogue that's awful, and there's nothing they can do about it. I would argue that maybe they shouldn't have taken the project to begin with, but also I don't know that these three are offered a ton of lead roles. I get the appeal. They're thinking, well, maybe just maybe this thing will come out as a gem, you know, because there's always that, like, it's just like that optimism of like, well, we're working really hard and we're all artists here, and the thing that we're working on it's going to be good, isn't it? Well, the first film didn't really have like necessarily like a giant successful cast. It was like Annabelle Sciorra and Rebecca De Mornay, and like it's not. I don't know that it's that iconic of a film. It's a very sort of 90s film. Like if next year somebody was like, "Ooh, we remade Sliver," I'd be like, "Why?" Like, why are we making these movies? They're not that iconic and they're not that original. Just make another movie that's like it, like we've been doing for Hand That Rocks the Cradle for the last, 33 years. We've been making Hand That Rocks the Cradle and calling it something else this whole time. So many nannies have tried to steal husbands and families since 1992 in cinema that it's just ridiculous to try to be like, well, we're going to call one Hand That Rocks the Cradle. I feel like it puts an undue amount of pressure in you to like live up to the standards of the original, which isn't even, it's not like this film won an Academy Award. You're not trying to remake an Oscar film. I would say in terms of the aforementioned White Man Can't Jump, I think that film had a much higher bar to clear, because people do actually look back on White Man Can't Jump as being sort of a 90s classic. And having sort of iconic moments that have transcended. I think Hand That Rocks the Cradle is sort of like above average, kind of a trashy, sudsy thriller that isn't necessarily. It's not the kind of. It's a guilty pleasure. You know what I'm saying? The same way I mentioned Poison Ivy, right? sort of like that. It's a little bit like that in I mean, we made like sequels to that. I don't know, but there are films that came out of the 90s that are just like, well, I don't know, that was not good. It's very B movie-ish, but it's kind of, you know, whatever to watch. So then when you remake that, but you don't do anything, you actually somehow make it worse. It's a very odd choice. Um, you didn't have to live up to much high of a standard, and you didn't even meet that standard. There's nothing here that stands out. There's nothing here that's revelatory. There's nothing here that's great. There's stuff here that they play around with and ideas and concepts. Some of it, like there's a twist with like why Polly is doing all of this. But even with that, I feel like the way the movie ends, we just kind of like it was a reason for Polly to be there, but we didn't really do anything with it. We didn't really like acknowledge the weight of that trauma that had brought us to this point. We just kind of like moved the fuck on. And I don't get it. There's this thing Winstead's character is obsessed with like her child not having sugar, but she carries around like a bag of candy in her car so that she can have candy and sugar. Your kids never opened the glove box before? The insurmountable task of opening a glove box. Also, doesn't chocolate melt at some point? I mean, I don't know. Anyway, I don't know if it was chocolate, but candy can melt in a car. Yeah. So I don't know what to do with this. The audio description was fine. I don't really have like strong thoughts about it. I thought like it pointed out certain things at certain times, that were helpful. It doesn't really like lean in on anything. This film doesn't really lean in on anything. This film doesn't really do anything or go anywhere. So it just sort of has like audio description that's kind of like, it's like audio description I'm not going to remember. I think maybe the most interesting thing was like sort of reactions, like the kid's reaction to watching, this cupcake happen for the first time. She's like, oh, sugar. Like, really? You've never had sugar before at any of your friends' houses, at school, at any parties? No one has ever snuck you sugar before. She truly has held up to her end of the bargain with her mom when she seems to have nothing but a contentious relationship. But yeah, I mean, stuff like that was kind of funny. It's hard not to point out the things because there are some times when something happens and it's just this like unintentionally hilarious thing because it's kind of poorly written. Mika Monroe has this scene with Martin Starr. I would just say that doesn't go well for Martin Starr, so you know what scene I'm talking about. But I just thought that scene was really poorly written. So the audio description was describing it. I was kind of just laughing. I didn't think that scene was so. But all it's doing is telling me what's happening. It's the film that's bad. Like the film is not good. Is this the worst film? No, this is not the worst film I've seen this year. Because I always need to like preface that with some of these films that haven't been great in 2025 that we have not reached War of the Worlds. This is not where I would rather watch this film again than watch War of the Worlds again, easily. Like no contest. Because at least if I watch this film again, I can appreciate the performances, and I can sit there and really focus and lean in on like Mary Elizabeth Winstead and try to find like the nuances in her performance, or Mika Monroe, who I mean she's been good in things before, and try to embrace that. But Ice Cube's terrible in War of the Worlds. I have nothing to enjoy there, and I don't even think it's one of those like so bad it's good films. I just think it's so bad it's bad. So sometimes you do rebound and you get a film that's a little bit campy and it's a little bit funny, and it ends up becoming something where you're like, well, I could watch that again. That was really silly. That was so really bad, but oh my God. And that happens, but I didn't feel that with that. with Hand That Rocks the Cradle, like what saves it here is that I have nothing negative to say about the actors. I think they're just what they're given to do and say in the scenes that they're in. The only negative thing that I would say to Mary and Mika and Raul is pick better projects. You still have that ability to read the script in advance, and all three of you chose this film. So it's your own fault. Like, if your career ends here because this is the biggest travesty into man, that's your fault. You signed on to the project. None of you guys are like at like death's door in terms of your career. This isn't like watching and being like, oh, well, we haven't seen Cuba Gooding Jr. in a while. Look, it's a movie with Cuba Gooding Jr., Mel Gibson, and uh, I don't know who else's career is dead. Steven Seagal? Like I don't know who's offering those movies to me. No one. So, uh, these people have movie offers. They have TV show offers. They get roles. They're still getting cast. I've already seen other things this year with like Mika and Raul, and I don't think I've seen Mary this year, but I've already seen other projects with the two of them. So what? Why? Anyway, this review is long. I'm sorry. I'm just so perplexed and confused. I love the fact that they pre-screened this. what unwielding confidence. You know the movies that I haven't gotten to, like, that haven't pre-screened, and I'm just like, can I get a copy? Like, I'd love to see, I think that would be good. And then turns out like other people are like, well, that's good. I'm like, but there wasn't like a live screening of it here. There was no opportunity for me to get it in digital form or anything. And then like I get Hand That Rocks the Cradle. It's just so, it's weird. It's so weird. Um and this is coming from somebody who liked what was their last original, Swiped. I gave that a fresh. I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was good. I liked it enough. So yeah, this is kind of abysmal. I'm gonna give it a 3.8 out of 10. It's buoyed by the performances, but I would not recommend this across the board. So thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and keep rocking that cradle into the night. Anyway, I'll see you guys on the other side.